Oh man, what happened? I got a hangover. What's that old saying? Beer before whiskey, always risky. Grass in the wicket, time for cricket. These violent delights of violent ends. Chad Summerchild, we found you. Whoa, discount Skarsgård and discount Hemsworth? Am I dreaming? What exactly happened here? I don't know, bro, but I gotta tell you this great Big Little Lies theory about your brother actually being Ziggy from a different timeline. And our episode begins with Arnold, I guess, talking to Dolores. He essentially tells her that he has a dream about this episode. He's on a shore with rising water and all the hosts are there, but he's not with them. And so I have this theory. Great, what's your theory, Chad? This is not actually Arnold in the past, but Bernard in the future. No, wait, I mean Arnold put his code into the machine and has programmed Bernard's master plan to drown all the hosts. No, wait, this is actually a hallucination, like a really boring hallucination. No, wait, Bernard is really a fan of Game of Thrones Season 7 and wants all the hosts to sink like Jaime did and then be miraculously saved. Well, anyway, Arnold says that what is real is what is irreplaceable. Okay, theory. The guests are getting cloned to make replacements of them, like in the Westworld sequel Futureworld. No, wait, Arnold wants to make the hosts mortal and have babies, and that's what this opening credits is all about? No, wait, there's this desire for the humans to be immortal like hosts, but then the hosts want to be mortal like humans, so it's like two inverted Pinocchio tales going on at the same time? Chad, are you trying to come up with every possible theory so that one of them will happen to be right in the end? Theory. You're an asshole. Anyway, just like last season with Escalante, we get a bunch of random scenes. Right now, they don't make too much sense. Maybe Arnold talking to Dolores, Bernard breaking down, Abernathy, somebody getting rebuilt, the cast of Dear John, Dolores talking to Bernard, Bernard shooting a gun, Bernard in the control room, someone fighting what looks to be a masked man in the control room, Bernard looking sad, and then Bernard wakes up on the beach with a champagne glass, making us think initially that this is right after the party. But we quickly find out that this is later on. After all, he's wearing a different outfit than the party night. Of course, last season Bernard would change outfits 6 times a day, but this season I think they're going to be more careful with that. Bernard is found by some military contractors of Delos and Stubbs. And I swear to God, if they don't eventually explain how Stubbs escaped Ghost Nation and got here, I'm going to murder someone. My theory is that after Ghost Nation discovered how mentally ill he was, they felt sorry for him and let him go. Anyway, we find out that Bernard is a high priority target, and Stubbs tells Bernard that communication has been down for 2 weeks. So I guess it's been 2 weeks since the incident? Theory, it hasn't been 2 weeks since the incident. What are you talking about? Shouldn't Stubbs know exactly how long it's been since the incident? Stubbs has been replaced by a host. I think it's been like a full year since the incident and everything is recreated. Well, that wouldn't make any sense. People would be looking for the lost guests. I tend to think that it actually has been 2 weeks. Anyway, we then have a storming of the beaches of Normandy feel as Delos begins landing. They spend some CGI money making sure that the cameramen don't appear in this woman's glasses. Bernard is a little out of it and sees that random hosts are being executed on the beach. Rebus, for some reason, runs out to protect a woman. This doesn't seem very Rebus-like, but perhaps we'll understand it later. Theory, these aren't hosts, they're actually guests, and this was a good Samaritan reflex. But we see Rebus kill a woman later on in the episode. Theory, Rebus falls in love. Well, whatever the case, I'm willing to bet that this woman, whether a host or a human, is going to be damn important. We get a close-up of her, and a bullet is put in her head. I'm not sure if this is her in the Delos cards or not. It doesn't actually look like her. Theory, this is the Man in Black's daughter. Anyway, we then meet Carl Strand, who's talking to this Chinese military dude. And the Chinese military dude says if you don't leave in an hour, and then is cut off. Wait, Chad, you speak Chinese? Well, yeah, but just some Mandarin, some Xianhua, and some Uyghur. What? You speak Uyghur? Dude, Kashgar knows how to party. Next, Strand proceeds to justifiably throw shade on Bernard and Stubbs for being completely incompetent.
Speaking of shade, it's me, Shade of the Lamp. Many of you may be wondering why Stubbs, the most incompetent person in human history, is let anywhere near Strand's operation. At best, he should be collecting an unemployment check. At worst, charges for criminal negligence. But as you can see, Carl Strand has brought up the fact that Stubbs is incompetent, and magically, we get to move on.
Anyway, the crew then walks along the beach, and it's clear that there's been a battle between cowboys and Indians. Strand orders an American Indian's head opened with a technician worrying about sterility for God knows what reason. Are we worried about the American Indian getting an infection? Anyway, the scalp is removed and we see he has the maze on the inside of his scalp, a mystery from season 1 that is yet to be answered.
And ew, gross, they open the head and we find out that a host's brain is just like a light bulb floating in water.
Yeah, these host brains seem awfully portable. I'm not sure why Charlotte was having such a hard time getting one out of the park. And when they lobotomized them with a drill through the nose, they were able to affect this? Maybe this is only part of the host's brain. Anyway, we find out that 11 and a half days ago, Dolores killed off these American Indians, saying that they didn't deserve to make it to the valley beyond.
Theory, everyone is racing to the other side of the valley before the water levels rise. And this American Indian is designed to slow Delos down while Dolores does something on the other side of the lake. Or theory, he's aligned with Maeve and there's a civil war within the hosts. Or theory, he's filled with nitroglycerin and he's going to explode. Or theory, the American Indians worship shades and therefore want to protect humans. Or theory, Dolores just really hates American Indians.
Bernard then notices his hand twitching and flashes back from 2 weeks after the incident to right after the incident. So once again, it seems we have multiple timelines.
Theory, there aren't multiple timelines, it's all happening at the same time.
How is that possible? We see Bernard and Teddy in both timelines.
They're copies, multiple Bernards and multiple Teddys.
And the 2 weeks of lost communication? The Delos board wouldn't have spent 2 weeks in Westworld before the incident.
Fine, there are 2 timelines, but there's still multiple Bernards and multiple Teddys, just because.
Anyway, Charlotte and Bernard are trapped in this barn while Rebus is torturing a woman out front. Everyone in the barn decides to head to an outpost 2 miles northeast, because in the year 2050, an American company filled with scientists operating in East Asia still wouldn't have adopted the metric system. This is sadly accurate. A stable hand comes in and is promptly killed. Bernard tries to stop it, and they even play sad music for it, even though no one tried to rescue the woman outside, and we didn't get any sad music for her. And we find out that Bernard is leaking brain fluid, probably from, shooting himself in the head last season.
Oh man, the stable hand mentioned riding to the valley beyond, which is the same place that Dolores talks about going to. This means, something. Theory, Ford planned having that lake grow out of nowhere. Because Ford planned it all.
We then get a shot of Sweetwater, which is in rebellion as well, even though Escalante is several days away. I guess all those hosts from Basement 83 spread out.
And then we'll get a bunch of awesome shots of Dolores killing lots of people. I guess to save bullets, she decides to hang these ones instead of shooting them.
Wait a minute, is that woman wearing high heels? They're in the middle of friggin' nowhere. She ran all the way out here in high heels? Or did Dolores catch her in Escalante and then bring her all the way out here just to hang her? We then get to the man in black who, I guess, decided to run back to the party after getting shot and then hid under a dead masked man. And there are, by the way, remarkably no flies or vultures on these dead bodies despite, 8 hours passing? Sorry, but in the real world, this scene would be teeming with animals who specialize in decomposition. Here, there just seems to be a wolf. The man in black then seems to head to some sort of cabin that maybe Ford put him up in before the incident. His horse is there and it's all cleaned up, so that was nice of the park. The man in black then proceeds to get into a massive fight against some hosts and shows that he has full range and motion of his arms. He even wrestles and kills a man using his right arm. Of course, Dolores had injured his arm in the last episode of last season, and it's so injured that he goes around awkwardly using his left hand at the party. But nope, now his arm is completely healed.
Maybe this is a different timeline, bro.
Then why do they spend the time showing him dressing his gunshot wound? His left arm stayed injured, but his right arm healed? That was some night underneath the dead body. We then get to Lee, who for some reason after finding the hosts were gone in Basement 83, went upstairs to his office to hide, I guess. But alas, he's been found by Fake Wyatt and is about to be eaten when Maeve, who has somehow acquired a gun, saves him. Lee then convinces Maeve that the map she's looking at is outdated, and so Lee takes her to the control room where they find it's filled with bodies and a dead bear for some reason. Even though the control room isn't working, Lee convinces Maeve that he's still useful as he knows the park. Though Lee almost gets himself killed by suggesting Maeve's daughter isn't real, calling back the discussion from the beginning of the episode about what is real. We then get to the longest 2-mile hike in history. Let's remember that 2 miles should take at most an hour. The crew left at night, and now it looks to be blazing hot out. What, did they get lost? And guys, you can ditch the sport coat and ties.
Dude, maybe they're worried about their tux rental deposits.
These people are all millionaires. They can forgo their deposits. They then see a buggy and everyone runs towards it except Bernard and Charlotte, and oh crap, that's why it took him so long. The women are still wearing their heels. What's with these women keeping their shoes on? Look, I'm going to give you some advice in life. If there's an active shooter, lose the heels. Trust me, you'll thank me later. Lose the heels. Anyway, the whole thing is a trap, and masked men and Angela come out and kill everyone except for this guy. We have no idea why this guy was saved.
Theory, that's Logan.
I don't know, he seems a little young to be Logan. Logan should be in his 60s. That guy looked like he was in his 50s. Anyway, Bernard begins to shake, and Charlotte says that she knows of a different outpost. So we then get back to Lee and Maeve, who are met by a security team. Lee outs Maeve, but they are conveniently attacked by some hosts, saving her. In the end, Maeve only yells at Lee for turning on her. She has softened up quite a bit since last season. They then go to the bar, which, despite being outside in the heat, doesn't seem to have any flies. And I do have to say that Lee is taking the mass slaughter of people remarkably well. This is more death and trauma than most soldiers see in war. They then find Hector, who has survived machine gun fire from last season. At least they gave him some bullet holes. Meanwhile, back with Charlotte and Bernard, we find out that Delos has a secret facility in the park, and Bernard and security don't know about it. Yup, Delos can sneak in contractors, construct this facility, have off-network hosts, and hide the fact that the park's hosts are going in and out of it all the time, but Teresa and Charlotte can't upload information to a satellite without getting flagged, or sneak a host's brain out of the park. Alright.
Anyway, we get to see this whole creepy facility, and it turns out that Bernard is able to open the door because he has DNA too. There's a bunch of weird faceless drone hosts there, and then Charlotte logs into a computer and we find out something significant. Charlotte puts in some sort of password containing Chi Omega, and this confirms that she was a member of the Chi Omega women's fraternity. And this explains why Charlotte is so driven. Chi Omega, after all, provides a steady, consistent guide for sisters to create a path of purpose and success.
Yeah, you don't think that's a coincidence?
There are no coincidences, Brandon. Ford has a plan for us all, and if you open your heart to him and make him your personal savior, you too can have eternal life.
Yeah, I'm already immortal, so you can suck it. Anyway, Charlotte asks for a rescue, and Delos refuses until they get Abernathy. I'm actually not quite sure why Delos is being such bastards. Let's keep in mind that last season, the only thing that was keeping Delos from coming in and taking the IP was the fear that Ford would destroy it all before they got there. But now Ford's dead, so what's keeping them from coming in? Anyway, on top of this, Bernard finds out that Delos is logging guests' DNA and experiences, and Charlotte won't talk about it.
Theory. The sex workers are logging and stealing everyone's semen. No, wait. They're getting the DNA to make clones, and they're using the experiences to build personalities so they can replace them all in the real world, just like in Futureworld. No, wait, they're using all of the experiences and DNA as blackmail in order to keep people in line. No, wait, the experiences are sold to people afterwards, kind of like when they take your picture when you're on a roller coaster and they try to sell it to you afterwards.
Anyway, the man in black is wandering aimlessly when he comes upon Lil Ford. How did Lil Ford find him? Was he sprinting across Westworld in order to catch up with the man in black's horse? Lil Ford then tells the man in black that he has a game for him. He needs to escape the park and find the door. The man in black says thanks, and then shoots Lil Ford in the face. Well, what else were they gonna do? The actor playing the boy was growing up fast. We then get back to Maeve, who's patching up Hector, and then she wants Lee to suit up in Western clothing for their trek out into the park.
And then we get this awesome sequence where Lee has to strip and we see Lee's uncircumcised penis. By the way, circumcision prevents penis cancer, significantly reduces the chances of getting STDs. So don't be like Lee and get your wee-wee snipped.
I mean, I get the whole symbolism of humans being shamed into nudity like the hosts were shamed into it, but honestly, Lee is the last person in the world with a problem with his own nudity. I seem to remember him whipping out his penis and peeing in the control room and then leaving his penis out as he talked to senior management. We then have Teddy and Dolores, and Teddy seems reluctant to go to war, but Dolores says that they need to. In fact, their war is not just to conquer Westworld, but the real world too. Teddy thinks this is a bit ambitious, but Dolores is confident for some reason.
Theory, Ford gave her extra information on how to take over. No, wait, we know from Bernard's flashback that Dolores has actually been in the real world before, so perhaps she remembers information from that time and knows how to conquer the world.
Like what?
You know, Delos stuff. Maybe she's going to implement the plan to replace all world leaders like in Futureworld. Anyway, Angela then arrives and says they found it, which I imagine means they found the third Skarsgård brother.
We then get back to Bernard and Charlotte, who needs to find Abernathy, and Bernard lets Charlotte know that there is actually a mesh network of hosts that allows them to communicate with each other. He can use the mesh net to find Abernathy. Charlotte then weirdly and condescendingly asks if Bernard can handle all of this because he's shaking, as if they didn't recently see dozens of people die in a traumatic incident. So Bernard checks his vitals to discover he's experiencing memory loss and loss of facial recognition. Additionally, he has 0.72 hours until critical malfunction. 0.72 hours, not 43 minutes. They use miles in Westworld, but have moved away from minutes. Whatever the case, Bernard is able to use the mesh net to find Abernathy while clandestinely refilling his brain fluid. Charlotte clearly thinks Bernard is acting funny, but I think we all know that Charlotte's looks of suspicion lead nowhere. You can get away with murder, and Charlotte may give you that look, but it won't mean anything. We then flash forward to Strand's team making it to Escalante. For some reason, everybody gets body armor except Strand and Bernard. God forbid the leader get body armor. And we see that the bodies at Escalante have just begun to decompose. I'm sorry, but if this is a world with vultures, these bodies would have been picked clean in 2 weeks. Even without the birds, the insects would have done much more to them. Not to mention, the baking heat should have dried out these bodies and essentially mummified them. This looks like 1 or 2 days of decay, not 2 weeks.
Theory, it has only been 2 days. No, wait. Theory, the bodies were cleared away and new clone bodies were put in. No, wait. Theory, the timeline is screwed up, somehow.
Or maybe the writers just don't know how fast things decompose? We then go driving and they find a dead tiger from Park 6, revealing that the parks can be crossed into each other. And then the satellite lets them know that all the hosts have gathered in a valley. But when they go to the valley, they find a massive lake there instead, and Bernard reveals that he killed all of the hosts, including Teddy.
Okay, theory, the hosts intentionally killed themselves and transferred their consciousness into new bodies. I mean, they all need to get new bodies anyway, right? They have those C6 vertebrae. I mean, if they plan on conquering the world, they all have to pull a Maeve at some point. Bernard's flashbacks even show a recreation scene. And in the opening, we have a merging of the water and the milk bath as concepts. Water is about rebirth, not death.
Alright, Chad, I'll grant you, that's a pretty good theory.